For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to Strat News Global. First of all, Happy New Year to all our viewers. With this episode, we are starting the second season of the popular program Simply Nitin, which was made popular by all of you. And in the first episode of the second season, I'm going to talk about India's enormous efforts to improve infrastructure along the China border in the past 4 or 5 years. That's the topic of this week's Simply Nitin. After a relative lull on the India-Tibet border in the first few months of 2022, recent clash at Yangtse in the Tawang sector of the border in December 2022 has once again focused attention on the tension along the northern frontier. Why was this clash? It's been explained by a couple of our programs in December. We've also had done a program about the improving infrastructure building by India in the remote areas of Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Ladakh, everywhere. But I'm once again starting the second season of Simply Nitin by refocusing on India's infrastructure efforts along the northern frontiers, but especially in Arunachal Pradesh, because Arunachal Pradesh might be the next target that China has in its quest to keep India off balance in the year 2023. Arunachal Pradesh has always been sensitive, and particularly the West Kameng sector or the Tawang sector has been very sensitive in terms of how the military engagement or military face-offs take place between the two sides. So what happened at Yangtse on 9 December is now well known to all of you. It's an old, difficult point between the two sides. India has occupied the highest point in Yangtse, overlooking the Yangtse plateau, which is on the Tibet side. And the Chinese want to come and occupy the post that India has established on the ridge line, so that they can have advantage over India in that sector. This dispute dates back to 1987 when the Sundarangchu crisis had occurred. And of course, from 2006, constant endeavor of the Chinese PLA has been to try and oust India from those posts and occupy those posts. So December 9 was no different. But given the heightened interest about India and China amongst the Indian public, in the world, amongst academics, amongst analysts, this clash got highlighted much more than it warranted. Because every year, even in 2021 October, there was a similar clash, similar standoff, similar face-off that had taken place at Yangtse. But this got much wider publicity and much more discussion took place in the public domain. But that's not the real meat of this program. What I'm going to talk about is how India has upped the game all along the northern frontier in terms of infrastructure building. One of the most crucial achievements in the past month and a half has been to open what is called the TCC Maza Road or TCC Taksing Road, the two-axis linking Limeking to the nearest border point on the LAC in the Upper Subansiri district of Arunachal Pradesh. India has been battling to open that road and get access by road to that area for years together. That's been one of the key result areas that people had identified for themselves, to have this road opened so that Indian troops, Indian army troops, Indian equipment can travel by road. So far, this segment or this sector has been linked or has been serviced only by air, by helicopters. And given the vagaries of nature in Arunachal Pradesh, where monsoon is prevalent for almost 6 months, the high clouds prevent helicopters from flying, it was very difficult to maintain those posts and have a hard posture against the Chinese. This road should enable Indian troops to move much faster through that area. In fact, in September 2021, me and my colleagues went to the last helipad, Limeking, where we wanted to go to Maza in that helicopter, but because of bad weather, we had to turn back from Limeking itself. So this is a big achievement. The TCC Taksing Road, the TCC Maza Road, and the entire sector being now open to road development. But that's only one part of it. If you really go by figures given in the parliament by the government, past 5 years, India has built more than 2,000 kilometers of roads all along the LAC, spending over 15,000 crores, which is a big jump from what the achievements were or what the progress was in the previous 5 years. Now, this is clearly because of focused attention to improving road connectivity right up to the last point which touches the line of actual control with Tibet or with China, whatever you want to call it. 60 strategic roads will be completed by March this year. 60 more, not the earlier ones, but 60 more strategic roads. One of them was the TCC Taksing Road, which I have already mentioned, and the importance of that. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was in Arunachal Pradesh in Siyom district in eastern Arunachal Pradesh, opening a big crucial bridge in a remote area of that district, which will link an area which was unconnected between Along-Yingkiong. The road was always vulnerable to landslides, landslips, and the monsoon putting pressure on the road itself. In fact, our team also couldn't travel to Along because this road was not opened when we went there in September 2021. This bridge will enable opening that sector for surface movement by Indian transport, Indian Army transport, trucks, even the artillery guns being taken there. So all this is happening at a very rapid pace. You also know about the OKSRT road, which I had mentioned in one of the previous editions towards the end of the year in 2022. The Sela Pass, which will give all-weather connectivity to Tawang, even in the winters, which normally otherwise gets closed down because of heavy snowfall in that pass, which is about at the altitude of about 13,700 feet, will give full air connectivity, and which will again improve Indian Army's posture in the crucial and sensitive Tawang area, which is eyed by China because it is seen to be part of South Tibet. It has a monastery, which is one of the oldest monastery and the biggest one of the biggest monasteries in Asia. The previous Dalai Lama, one of the previous Dalai Lamas was born in Tawang, and therefore it is a revered site or a revered monastery by the Buddhists, and the Chinese know it, and therefore Tawang is considered very sensitive. So a lot of these activities are happening, and this is happening because the Border Roads Organization, which was established in 1960, has improved its performance. It has got additional funds. Over the past 1 year, between 2021 and 2022, it has got an increase of over 40% in its budget, which means that now money is readily available. Money is given to BRO whenever required for strategic projects. Talking about the other improvement in infrastructure that India is doing is, of course, the establishment of the 8 ALGs or advanced landing grounds all along the LAC in Arunachal Pradesh, starting from Vijayanagar in the east to Tawang in the west, across the entire frontier spread over Arunachal Pradesh. The vibrant villages which are being established by Indian side to make sure that the population in those border areas do not leave those areas and come down to cities and towns for better livelihood or better lifestyle. So these vibrant villages will be provided all the required amenities, including schools, including the connectivity, both telecom and surface connectivity. They will also be provided the rations, they will be provided enough teachers. All that is being done in an integrated manner by coordinating activities of not just the Ministry of Defence, that is the Indian Army, Indian Air Force on one side, and the district administration which gets help and money from the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Arunachal Pradesh government is doing multiple things, trying to improve the livelihood chances for Arunachal villages or villagers along those areas which are remote, which are inaccessible, and which are of course crucial for India's security. So that's about Arunachal Pradesh. We've also spoken earlier about what's happening in Ladakh. In fact, one of the key triggers for the Galwan clash in June 2020, all of you will remember, is the road called DSDBO Road, the Siyom Road, which goes from south to north, connecting one of the remotest places in Ladakh. Now that road access is seen as a game changer, and which the Chinese feel threatened about, because that road access gives access to DBO, which is the last kind of outpost as well as an airfield in North Ladakh, bordering the near the Karakoram Pass, not bordering but near the Karakoram Pass, and therefore which also allows Indian deployments in the Depsang Plains. The Chinese see this as a threat to its highway G219, which runs through Aksai Chin, connecting Xinjiang and Tibet, and a new highway that they're trying to build. So while many of the commentators have focused on China's rapid development in Aksai Chin, along the border with India, in Arunachal Pradesh, the development villages or happy villages that they have built in Tibet, and the airfields that they are building, it must not be seen as only a one-sided affair, because of late, in the past 10 years or so, and especially in the past 5 years, India has also improved its delivery in terms of infrastructure building. And that is what annoys China, because now Indian troops are going to places where they didn't have access to, or are going there more frequently, and therefore more standoffs, more face-offs with the Chinese, who have an easier access from the Tibet side coming along the LAC. That is going to be the feature going forward in 2023 and beyond. And don't be surprised if there are more clashes, there are more face-offs, there are more fisticuffs. And what happens after that, nobody knows. So once you get the infrastructure story right, the infrastructure development right, it allows deployment, logistics chain to be effective for the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force, and they work in tandem. That's what is happening along the northern frontier over the past 5 years or so, in a very intense manner. And while we have focused on logistics, we have focused on the Indian Army's deployment, its rebalance of forces, going from one corps as a strike corps for Ladakh or for Northern Command, another strike corps for the Eastern Command, all that we've spoken about in the past. But the basic requirement and the most important requirement for any effective Indian Army and Indian Air Force deployment is to get the logistics right. And to get the logistics right, that means your supplies, your constant supply of ammunition, clothing, food, other essential items. To get that through to the last point along the LAC, you need good roads, better connectivity, all-weather roads, all-weather bridges, and tunnels which will allow that all-weather access to these places. So therefore, India is upping the game. It is not yet there fully. It will take some time, because India started this game much later, after 2008, 2009, while China started doing all this on its side in Tibet in the late 1990s. So they had a head start of about 20 years. And remember, when I say that many roads are being built on the Indian side, 60 strategic roads are worth 2,088 kilometers in the last 5 years. When you compare it with what China has done over the past 30 years, then it is absolutely minuscule, absolutely small, because China has built in Tibet, not all along the LAC, but in Tibet, over 60,000 kilometers of roads in the past 30 years. So we are yet to catch up with China, but it doesn't mean that everything is in China's favor, because once you get these roads through, once you get these airfields through, India also is in a position to defend very strongly. And that's what is annoying China, and China feels that it has a window over the next 5 years where India is still lagging behind in terms of strength and deployment, and therefore expect more and more clashes, more and more standoffs in the coming years, if not these coming months. That's what I wanted to highlight. We of course will bring you reports from the ground like we did earlier, even during COVID times when we went to Ladakh, we went to Arunachal Pradesh, we would go to Sikkim and maybe even Uttarakhand as permissions come through to go to these areas. But for the time being, please notice and please focus on these achievements of the Border Roads Organization, of the government, and absolutely focused approach, integrated approach by all concerned to get the infrastructure story right or the infrastructure development right so that everything else is built on that. That's all I have for the moment. Please let me know if you like this visiting the old format of Simply Nitin, or you want me to do something more and some other topics you want to suggest. Please give us feedback. We value your feedback. You know where to send that feedback. You know our social media handles. Please follow them. If you're already following, tell your friends, family, acquaintances to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our other social media handles, and continue to keep watching Stat News Global. Thank you very much.